And we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. It is Monday. It is the aftermath of what was a pretty incredible weekend of rugby decisions, of rugby announcements. And today starts the mark of a new Springbok era. A bit of a new dawn, as the title of the video does say, because it is the first Monday on the back of the Springbok announcement. We've got a new 42 or 43, or what is it, 48 actually? I think it's even more than that. But either way, we've got a new Springbok collection of players who have been named for the international season ahead. Now, that will include the Welsh Series, which kicks off in just under 2 weeks, or 3 weeks rather, kicks off on the 2nd of July, as well as then the entire Rugby Championship, which will take place in August and September. We've got URC happening this weekend. It is going to be a guaranteed South African winner because it will be a all South African URC final. We've got Currie Cup semi-finals happening this weekend. And we have got... what else do we have? We've got Springbok press conferences happening this week. Jacques Nienaber will be addressing the media tomorrow, I think it is. If it's either tomorrow or Wednesday. And then, which will be the first time that he will be able to speak on the selections that they have made, and that they and some of the players, for example, that weren't selected. So that should be quite an interesting press conference as well. So it's all starting to happen, isn't it? It's all supposed to be happening. I think it's Super Rugby playoffs this weekend. I think it's top four. I think it's Premiership final. I think the Premiership final is this weekend. It was the semi-finals this last weekend. So I'm just trying to see if it is. Leicester versus Saracens. That's on Saturday. Top 14. I think, is it this weekend? No, it's next weekend. Yeah, so next weekend will be the top 14 final on Friday night. I don't know why they have it on a Friday, but they always seem to have it on a Friday night before the official sort of test window then opens. So we are now really at the business end of the tournament. But let me know where you're watching from. Let me know what you think of the Springbok squad and stuff like that. Let me know, what your thought of the weekend was first. Going to a couple of people in the comments. Daniel says, does anyone else have concerns with the lack of fly game this year? It's just me. We're going to talk about that. Jan Rugby saying it's an all South African final. Is everyone starting for the box? You think maybe Super Rugby finals weekend as well? There we go. How's the squad? Hope you're well. The problem isn't the lack of fly-offs. It's why Glass Bones, Johan Goossens there instead of Moy Liebach or Chris Smith. The ultimate sharpshooter saying, I do wonder how much rotation is going to happen this year. No way we can play the best team for 11 out of 12 Tier 1 games. Bosch should be on the squad. Matthew Dixon, ultra sharpshooter still, I think Nienaber and Rassie C. Willemse as the third choice fly half. An interesting idea. Ghost Stormers this weekend. Johan Lovenlight says, watching from Austria. Great weekend for SA Rugby. Matthew Dixon had fun trolling this weekend. Let's start with the Springbok squad, I suppose, is the best place to start. And I'm going to try and see I'm trying to work out what the best way of bringing up the squad is. Because I think I've lost my graphics that we did. Let me just quickly bring up an article. Springbok squad. And then we can go through it. Now, what's quite interesting is we've had more clarity regarding the reason that some of the players have not been included. So we can talk about that as well. But trying to find a place which is a bit of a nicer format that will work for me. Okay, give me 2 seconds. I'm going to bring up the squad on the screen, and then we can talk about it and sort of and get some discussion. Right, so there is the start of the squad. So we're gonna talk about it. We can go through it, and I'm very interested to see what people have to say about it. But before I say anything, a couple of comments. Container says they need another position to take over for France Stain as mentorship role. Ruan Pinot could be a good option. He can cover 9, 10, and 15. LB reckons that we need Nell for 13 backup. I said the Bulls would be Leinster, and Grobbelaar was robbed. So yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit about various players and roles that Um, what was I saying? I lost my train of thought. Yes. Anyway, so let's start with. I think let's just start from the beginning to end, and then we can talk about all the various places. So if we look at the props, for example, now first of all, I think that South Africa are blessed with some of the best props in the world at the moment. Quinton Koch. I mean, if you just look at, for example, what they're up to. Thomas Latoy captaining the Sharks up to the Sharks to the URC quarterfinals. Stephen Kitsov will be captaining the Stormers for the final this weekend. Vincent Koch will be playing in the Premiership final this weekend for Saracens. Frans Mahou will be playing in the URC final this weekend. Ntutuko Nkunu, part of the Sharks squad that lost in the quarterfinals. Oxen Share, part of the Sharks side that lost in the quarterfinals. And then Trevor Nyakane currently playing for Racing 92. Now, if we talk about the props, I'm going to be brutally honest. I don't think that Ntutuko Nkumu should be there. I don't think I understand the thinking, and I know he's probably not going to play. So it's very much more somebody for the future. But I just have doubts about his fundamental role in terms of whether he can or can't scrummage. And the issue is, as I said, right now, he's probably not going to play. You're looking at your loose heads are Oxenshare and Stephen Kitsov. You've got Trevor Nyakane who can play both. So it'll only obviously be then that Ntutuko Nkunu, for example, would play. I do, however, think that there are better loose heads in the country. Whose all-around game is a bit better than Ntutuko. I understand why everybody really rates him, because he is so good in the loose. And he is fantastic. He's very, very quick. He's an absolute unit of a player. But as I said, I think my biggest concerns with him is that I don't think he's got the scrummaging ability yet. So, the good news, I think, is that it's very much a developmental selection. And I think it's many ways. It's probably a case of saying, right, well, this guy in the loose is incredible. So we need to make sure that he is the all-round player. So, for example, if that means that now he's going to spend the next month working with, the Springboks scrum coaches, he's going to be working with some of these props as well and stuff like that. From a developmental point of view, I think that he's there is a certain amount of value in it. But yeah, I just do have reservations about whether he's ready or not. But yeah, in terms of hookers, Joseph Dwyer, Malcolm Marks, Bongi Manambi. Joseph Dwyer has not had the best domestic season, and that's why he is on the move. He is looking to sort of restart and move from Bordeaux to have an opportunity to play for Stormers, and I think it's going to be a very good move for him to make, because I think that he does need a bit of a new, fresh start. So I think there's just cause to ask why Jan Krabala isn't part of the squad. What I would say, though, is I don't think Joseph Dwyer ever disgraced himself in a Springbok jersey last year when he did play. And I think that he is, if he gets back to playing a way that he was before he left South Africa, probably is the third best hooker in the country. Him and Jan Krabala, for me, are 50-50. I think that Krabala deserves to be there. And the reality is there's only one extra position, and right now that's Joseph Dwyer's position. In that he played last year, he had some good games in a Springbok jersey, and he never sort of disappointed. So there was never justification to have him dropped based on his performance of Springboks last year. And I think the Springboks management do reward that. They do sit there saying, he's never let us down. He's played well for us. He's really good for us. And that person that would replace him then has to be especially much better. They have to really give absolutely no doubts that that they are the better option, because there's trust in the Springbok management. I think there has to be, to a certain degree. There has to be a certain amount of, first of all, longevity in terms of what your long-term plan is and the type of players you want to have, and there needs to be a certain amount of, we tell you to do this, and if you do this, we will reward you. Because, as I said, Joseph Dwyer has not ever let the Springbok management down with his performances. So to exclude him, for example, would probably be quite harsh. The unfortunate thing is that means that somebody like Johan Krabala, who has played so well this season, doesn't get an opportunity. But we know he's the fourth choice. So there are injuries. There are opportunities for him to step up. If there's an injury, Jan Koblar gets called up tomorrow, and he might even have an opportunity to play. And if he plays and he plays well, then you sit there saying, right, well, there we go. So now we've got to look at two different options because they both justify the selection. So I think it's always going to be a bit of an issue in terms of, people will have to miss out, unfortunately. And there's always a very tricky balance in terms of getting it right, in terms of selections and stuff like that, rewarding form, because you want to reward form. You want to see players who played an absolute storm of a season get rewarded for it. But you also need to show a certain amount of loyalty to players who have done the job for you in the past. So Nathan Dixon would say Pino's retired, probably won't come back. I'd like Rob Dupree back. No, thank you. It's about the North must be the new Springbok lock combo. I think you're talking about Nokia. Why isn't Liebach selected? Good question. Bring someone else to the coach of the Sharks. Send Everett Lions. He'll be a blessing there. Zek. Liebach probably kept out because of his performance Saturday. Why does it take ages to sort out citizenship? Case in point, Vincent Tuka, Island fast track, and Aussie after only playing 8 games for Connacht. Yeah, because unfortunately we're incompetent. Yeah, Rugby saying that Darmani should have been there. What team is death? I propagate 100%. What do you think about Liebenberg from Leicester Tigers? Yeah, he's been playing very well. A lot of people sort of saying that he should be. They should be looking at a call up for him. Does the squad even matter? S at home can bring anyone in any time. Yeah, 100%. But I suppose in the long term, in terms of your processes and stuff like that, these are the players who will be representing. The only other loose heads in the country are Broxty and Steenekamp, and of course Tank and Trevor Swingers. Yeah, look, one thing I would say is from a scrummaging point of view, I think somebody like Steve Satole is one up on Intutukum Kunu. I think that he was part of the Lions front row, which wrecked a lot of scrum. I think the Lions and the Sharks had the starting front rows were the best two in the competition. So Steve Satole was part of that. Whether it should be called up Springboks, I don't know. I think this is the fact that Trevor Nyakane plays on both sides. It probably allows that Intutukum Kunu selection, because you know that you're never going to have to throw him in the deep end. Deborah says we need to realize we have a way of playing, and some players we wish could be part of the setup won't be until the next 10 year. Our game plan works for us, and some players just don't fit the mold. It's a very good point. You don't. An international team selection isn't the best 23 players, for example. It's the best national team, which means that it's the best players for the way the team wants to work, the way the team wants to operate, and the way that you want to play rugby. So it's quite a tricky job to be in, because you need to sit there and say, and it's the same thing when it came to the British and Irish Lions selection, for example. Some people sit there saying, how is this player not selected? Look at what he's done. And then people will say, well, we want to play in a certain way, and he doesn't fit that mold. Daniel says, why can't Carly Sardi make the squad? Well, I suppose because you've got the likes of Thomas Toy, Vincent Koch, Trevor Nyakane ahead of him. Thomas Toy could very well be the third choice. I think he probably is the third choice prop there, that tight head. I think you'd probably have Trevor Nyakane as your starting tight head with Vincent Koch off the bench, and then Thomas Toy. And Thomas Toy has been in really good form. So it just shows you the sort of depth that we have at tight head. Bruce Boss says, besides that, live up being a class act for Stormers, I say pick him, or you might say Willemsen's crap. Look at the kid now. Players need adversity to grow. Willemsen came out a world beater, 100%. We need a battle for 3. Malherbe versus Koch. Malherbe, great starter, but poor off the bench. Koch concede unnecessary penalty. Oh, yeah, I hadn't mentioned. That's another point, because France Malherbe didn't play much last year. So, you have France Malherbe, and then you can have Vince Koch off the bench, or you have Trevor Nyakane on the bench for loose head, tight head. There's lots of selections to make. Can you even forget about France Malherbe? So thinking about last year, what we had. 100% agree as a Sharks fan. As soon as the first choice front row go off, the scrum quality goes down. Says Cool Clear. Debate is solid enough. Just needs to get back into Doeba, 100%. Even Marcel and Lewis unleashed a starting lineup. Imagine Malherbe was average against Ulster. Needs to lay off the hamburgers. Mate, if you're going to sit there and jump on the whole Malherbe is a big... and that whole sort of Malherbe is too fat and stuff like that, then you clearly have not watched rugby before enough, because he was one of our best players during the World Cup, and one of the reasons that we won the World Cup. He's incredibly important to that side, and it's far too easy just to sit there saying, oh, he needs to lose weight. He's a prop. He's one of the best scrummagers in the world, for good reason. Why not put PJ Butch in the squad? Yeah, let's not talk about him. With the giant loose forwards we have now, I'd be worried if I was the opposition. But surprised by Oren says, surely someone that's been playing more consistently. Time Green may have been a better utility option. LaRue at 10 is what Supersport back as a 20-minute end of the game type of player. Yeah, he could do that. Liebach offers utility with playing 15 a lot. Liebach can cover 10 centers. He doesn't cover centers. Wing, don't put Junior Box in the wing when the guys. If he has not played at international level, at domestic level in that position, he doesn't cover that position. It's like Spoon Corsi doesn't cover center. Mapimpi doesn't cover center. Just because they might have played there once or twice in their life, it doesn't mean that they do cover them. But I do think, and we'll get to the fly halves, I do think we need an extra fly half, to be honest. But yeah, so if we look at our locks, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Because I mean, I looked at those locks going, well, how is Franco Mostert not there? And then realized that they now classify him as a utility forward. And I mean, how incredible is it to have Franco Mostert, who I thought during the British Irish Lions was probably our player of the series. Who did get player of the series? Didn't he get player of the series? Mori Toje. Or was that the official one? Was that a unofficial one? I don't know. I thought he was phenomenal last year and looked like a whole different thing. But I think if you look at those locks, you can't complain about those selections. I think, I think Marvin Ori can sometimes be lucky to be there, but he's very consistent. The question is, is there anybody else that should be ahead of him? And I don't think there is. If Archie Snyman is available, then he comes in for me for Marvin Ori, and then you sit there going, wow. Because you're gonna have Eben Etzebeth, Luat Diaga, Franco Mostert are all going to be in the 23. That's a given. For me, it's interesting because somebody like Franco Mostert doesn't have that great of an impact off the bench. Because he is, and similarly like Ruan Nokia, for example, won't have that big of a bench. They're just different type of players. They're not necessarily that massive physical presence that is big ball carrying. But they've got those engines and they're absolutely relentless. They'll hit more racks than anybody else. They'll make more tackles than anybody else. So Franco Mostert for me is somebody who needs to be playing 80 minutes because he can play 80 minutes at the same level. But it's difficult because you don't want Luat Diaga and Eben Etzebeth only giving you 40 to 50 or 60 minutes. But that's just the sort of the embarrassment of riches that we have at lock because, yeah, and I mean that's it. That's not including something like PSTF the toy who can fill in at lock if we need to. So I think our locks are tremendous. I don't think we can do much better. I think Arke stay better if he gets over his injuries, can come in for Ruan, Marvin Ori, but I think Salman Murat and Ruan Nokia are a future. I think they are a futures lock combination for the box because I think that Salman Murat, once he starts playing a lot more, I think we'll get back to where he has been. Been a little bit disappointing, but he has been very, very affected by injuries. But he was tremendous at youth levels, and he's a very, very impressive physical specimen. So I think he's got a big future ahead of him. Ruan Nokia is a Franco Mostert reincarnated in just terms of that sort of Iron Man fitness where he just keeps going. So Josh is saying Mahoba tackles counters and disruptions going unnoticed. Well, sorry, change the salary cap. Grant Swart says contender my man coming in strong with the crazy team selections. Al Shashi says the best 5 locks selected. Jay says off top of the Curry Cup first division semi-final teams have now been decided. Includes unbeaten Griffins versus Black Lion and SWD versus EP Elephants. Obviously, have we not learned about how bad it was putting Creel on the wing, keep people in the preferred positions? Jay saying Jason Jenkins. I'll be interested to see what Jason Jenkins does next season with a full season ahead of him. Kind of sort of dropped off the rail a little bit, but he's a quality player. Most of us says Ori is a 5, and there's a 4. Well, I mean, yeah. So that Marvin Ori is a very good lineup specialist. I think that's why one of the big things that he does play is lineup work, and he's just pretty solid around the general sort of games. And if you start off, if now that the fact that he's a seems to have nullified that point is interesting. Ori is a 5 and Archie is a 4. Yeah, but I think Franco Mostert's a 5, so you could afford to have an extra 4 because you've got Ruan Nokia, Luat Diaga, and Marvin and Franco Mostert who cover 5. So you can then have Eben Etzebeth, Salman Murat, and Archie Snyman as your 4s. I think Franco Mostert allows that versatility because you're either having one extra 4 and extra 5. So yeah, I don't think we need to necessarily have to replace role by role. Contender says Jessica had a brace on the wing in Japan. Would back in Corsi at 13 with Hendricks and Mapu. Bulls back 3 is already decent. What are you? Hang on. What are you talking about? Hendricks and Mapu. Are you talking about Corsi at 13? Bulls back 3 already. So, oh, you're saying Jesse Creole should come back to Bulls? What are you on about? Actually, I know what you're talking about, to be honest. I would include CM Masuku as a third half. I would like to get Masuku into the Lions camp. Obviously, Moretta's hell overrated. He makes no meters. No, I don't think he's overrated. I just think he's taking a while for him to really get back to his best. I mean, I looked at the stats this week. I think he did make quite a few meters. JD Schickerlin, the forgotten lock, Humorat was supposed to be our lock polish of the Stormers. Yeah, I think JD Schickerlin could have been part of the box squad, but in going overseas to Japan, he's not going to get forgotten. And that's kind of the reality. You don't get a call up from Japan. You only get a recall if you're playing in Japan. So if you're already part of the box squad and you go to Japan, then you'll still be part of the setup. But if you aren't part of the setup, I think it's very difficult for you to make the box squad from your performances in Japan. Carlos Jordan Hendricks at 10. Buthelezi needs to work hard to compete with Low and Lewis for the incumbent 8. Deborah says that's why people are going to be hurt when Sia gets the nod ahead of Marcel. He puts the model of the box and does really well, whereas Garcia plays a certain role for Bulls. Garcia's starting. The Springbok captain will start at 6. It's going to be Sia, Peter Steph. The question is who's going to be 8th man. And it could be Marcel Garcia, for example. But, so yeah, if we look at our loose forwards, they're just so good. They are so good. And I mean, the fact that you have people are questioning why wasn't this guy selected, why wasn't that guy selected, where would you fit anybody else in? For example, do I think Vince Tuka is good enough to be in the box squad? 100%. Who are you playing him ahead of, though? You know, because, and look, I do think he could be part of the squad. I personally would have him ahead of the likes of Reynard Alstad or Dean Ferrier or Peter State the Toy. So there are players you could change from a squad perspective, but these guys are some really good loose forwards. Reynard Alstad, I think, gets a very hard time because people don't watch the Pro 14. And if you did watch the Pro 14, you would know that he's one of the top tacklers every single match. He's one of the biggest work rates in one of the best French sides. He's incredibly important player in the French 14, and I think that we don't watch it. We don't watch Toulouse play, so we don't understand what he offers. But Rassi Erasmus really rates him, and he plays as one of the best players for a side that won the Champions Cup, that got to the semi-finals. They're one of the best club sides, and he's one of the best players within the club side. So, you know, just because you don't watch him doesn't mean, and you've seen like 2 or 3 cameos off the bench, it's harsh to then say he doesn't deserve to be there at all. Dion Ferry, I think, is I don't like the selection. I know a lot of people are saying, and I think a lot of people can concede that they don't see the point in him, but from a pure sort of nostalgic, sort of very nice, somebody who's given a lot to the game, you know, deserves to become a Springbok. And maybe he does. You know, I think, you know, over the years, we are so blessed with loose forwards. So there are lots of people who, you know, deserve to be a Springboks. Some of them will get that opportunity, some of them won't. And I don't think that, and let me get this very clear. I'm not suggesting that you are watering down the quality, the concept of a Springbok jersey when if Dion Free gets a cap. You know, Dion Free is worthy of a Springbok cap if he gets it. But I don't think we should be looking at somebody who deserves to be a Springbok, therefore should get an opportunity to be a Springbok. You know, I think that I don't think he's actually going to play, to be honest, and I think that's the problem. I think, you know, if he was going to play, if he was playing so well and they're saying, right, we're going to start him or whatever, then at his age, I don't really have much of a problem. My only problem with him is that I think that he's very much on the fringes of these loose forwards, in which case, at 35 years old, what's the plan there? And people talk about Schalk Brits, but I think Schalk Brits had a very important off-the-field role. Not sure, and he'd been part of the Springbok setup before. Not sure that Dion Free will offer the exact. And again, there's not anything against him, but I don't think he's been in the box squad, been in around the box squad and stuff like that to sort of be in a similar role. If that is what they think, then that's fine. But the reality is, does Dion Free make a final World Cup squad? No, he doesn't. Whereas Schalk Brits did. And as a result, I just feel that that could have been a position. You've got a project in Tuka Nkunu. You could have had a project player here. So I just think that's something where they could have done. But before we move to scrum halves, what is everybody saying? Alnal's top level 13, perfect cover for Anson. Defense, that's all we need from a 13. I think Sears should bench a couple of games. I don't know why you'd bench your player of the year last year or your captain. Moscow does not offer anything different to the incumbent loose forwards, 100%. Has anyone been watching part of this year? How's he looking? Why is Alstad even there? Like, for real, he doesn't do anything for green gold. As I said, he's been so good in the top 14. Future loose trio, Ruiz 8, Ulrich 7, Marcel 6. Well, I don't know how much of a future loose trio it is, because we talk about future like post World Cup, and post World Cup, I suppose what Castillo will be 33, so he won't be that old, but he would be a bit of an odd one out in terms of an age wise, because Ruiz and Ulrich will be in their sort of mid 20s. But again, I don't have an issue with somebody 33 years old playing. Paulo got injured, so he only played a few games last season. Evan Ruiz is a bloody beast, runs like a back with the strength of a forward. I don't know how to lose, so I'm just going to pick out some comments because there's just too many. So if you really need something to be read out, then you can send us a super chat so I make sure I don't miss it. But there's just a lot of comments for me to go through here. But I think this is a good point from Contender, saying we need the right people, not the best people. A Deontay-led side won a World Cup and Alliance Series. Agreed. However, if he comes back and plays like he did, I've got no issue putting Deontay back in there because he was ridiculous. But in terms of our scrum halves, now, Kubas Reinach's name is part of the players who are around. He's not part of the official squad because he's continuing his rehab. But so I don't know why that this list doesn't have Kubas Reinach but does have Jan Koersen, because Jan Koersen is exactly the same situation. He's part of the squad in terms of doing his rehab, but he's not available. Scrum halves has to be Faf de Klerk. Love the fact that Grant Williams is there. Herschel Yankees has been part of the squad. He's a World Cup winner. And to be fair to him, I think he has played better in the last couple of weeks. The big sort of question marks become, well, if you're not selecting them, who are you selecting? Now, I don't think Zach Berger is ready. Morning van den Berg is a very exciting player, but I would put him in the sort of the Williams category. So you're going to have one or the other. Players who've got lots of potential and are in good form, but I wouldn't have two of them there, for example. I think Jaden Hendricks has been the most frustrating player for me, because last year, and I think talent-wise, he's got everything. He's got everything you need in a scrum half. He's not playing particularly good rugby player right now. He's not playing at his best, and that's a sad reality, because I think that he's got all the tools he needs to become a world-class scrum half. He's just not playing particularly well at the moment. So it's difficult because, again, he was part of the setup last year. He did actually play. He's got a cap. So the question then comes, well, who else would you be bringing up? Because Kubas Reinach would be in the squad. And I think that he'd probably take the position of, for me, I'd probably have dropped Jaden. Because he hasn't been playing particularly well. But, again, they see a world-class scrum half in Jaden Hendricks. I think Jaden Hendricks has got a higher threshold than Grant Williams has. And probably Herschel Yankees as well. I think he's got the potential to be the best scrum half after Faf de Klerk. Whether he's playing well enough now and is a whole different scenario. Again, it's a bit... why we select 4 scrum halves is strange for me. But, yeah. And then fly halves, I think we do have a fly half problem. Alton Yankees, there's still a bit of a question mark over him. They're saying that they're treating him as innocent or proven guilty, and I don't think it's going to be much. I don't think anything's going to happen there. I think it sounds like quite a minor incident, to be honest. So I think he probably will be absolved, maybe get a fine or something like that. Put it this way, he's not going to be arrested. So I think that he will continue to play. Andre Pollard is the incumbent fly half, so he's always going to get picked. He needs to have a better season this year. I thought last year was the worst season I've seen Pollard have in a Springbok jersey, which sounds harsh. But I think it's probably true, to be honest. And look, the worst of one of the best fly halves, the worst of a World Cup winning fly half seasons doesn't have to be that bad. But I just think that he didn't play particularly well last year. Fly half is a bit of a problem, and I'm very surprised that we haven't added one of Marnie Liebach, Chris Smith, or Jordan Hendrickson. Chris Smith, the safest option right now, I think. Somebody who's very settled in this game, knows what he can do, knows what he can't do. He's solid. He's nothing special, I don't think. He hasn't got that X factor. He's not a world beater, but he's very solid. Um, I think that Liebach is the form flower half, top point scorer in the URC. Has been a major part of the Stormers' success this season. And then I think that Jordan Hendrickson is the exciting option. He is going to be better than all of them. He is the next Pollard. He is the Pollard replacement. He's also 20 years old. So, I personally would have preferred to have seen Jordan Hendrickson in the squad and one fewer scrum half, for example. If you want to do a developmental, like we talked about in Kuno, in terms of a young player training with the box, learning the systems, I think that there's more value in having Hendrickson there, even if he's not going to play, because he will play for the Springboks at this rate. He's got that talent. So, yeah, I think that with Flower Hearts, we're one injury away from having to call somebody up, and I think that worries me. In theory, we go with the 6-2 split, so Alton Yankees is not always on the bench. If we do go with the 6-2 split, so that's why you don't need a third flower half, because it's not like if there's an injury to Pollard, we have to call up a flower half to be on the bench, because you can play with a 6-2 split and have Alton Yankees playing the full 80. But I just think that we do need an extra flower half, because if something happens, I mean, Andre Pollard does not have the best injury record. Jan Goosen is made of glass. As I said, we all know that he's incredibly talented. On his day, better than Andre Pollard, better than Alton Yankees. But those days come 3-4 weeks in a row, and then he's on the sidelines for a year. He's literally going to be sidelined for a year at this rate. He's going to only come back in October. I don't understand how we can be in our right minds planning for next year on someone who you just cannot rely on. Worries me. It does worry me. And as I said, I've got full trust in the Springboks setup, but that selection does worry me. A lot of comments coming through, so I'm just going to pick out a few. Grant Swart says Jaden Henderson could be struggling because the Sharks as a whole are struggling. Grant Williams looks better when he comes on because the Sharks have already lost and third caution to the wind. On an interesting point. Chris Smith is bang average, but I agree he's a safe option for third choice. And I don't think there's anything wrong with being average. It means you're reliable, but it just means that he's not going to be a world beater. You can't expect him to pull something out. He's not a Remain Intermac. He's just going to on his own try line throw a couple of wild passes, and all of a sudden you're scoring one of the tries of the season. He's just not that player. But he kicks well enough. He's a good pace kicker, so and he makes tackles, and sometimes that's all you need. I'll be saying if Pollard doesn't perform, he should be dropped. He hasn't shown a lot since his performance against New Zealand and New Zealand. Peter Vivek was saying Pollard hasn't been on form since 2014. Apparently, from what I've heard, Pollard's been terrible for in top 14. So interesting. A lot of people saying that they would look at dropping him, to be honest. And as I said, I think he's actually under quite a lot of pressure, because I think that for years he's untouchable because he played so well when he first came through and looked so ready. But I think that what a lot of people are saying is that he hasn't progressed. He hasn't taken the next step. But I do think that there's only so long you can continue underperforming before you actually do have to sit there going, do we have to make a big call? So I think the general consensus people are saying that they would have liked to have seen Hendrickson included. What happened to Tim Sweel? I don't know. That's a good question, actually. Yeah, I said I would have liked to have seen Jordan Hendrickson. I think that he will play Springboks. He is very young, but he's like a Pollard and a Jan Goosen, and in terms of he looks so uncomfortable at this level. Like Kane Moody, for example, does. Kane Moody, if you have to say people, that he's 20. And you sit there going, sure, but he's a hell of a player for 20 because he just looks at home at this level. And Jordan Hendrickson, for me, is that player. And when he does play for the under-20s, he's a different level. he's a hold. It's like when we watch Pollard at the under-20s. There are certain players like Similani and the under-20s. They're just a different level. They're a class above the rest, and sometimes it takes a while for them to transfer that to the senior levels. But you can just see there are certain players that have talent, and whether they can or not take the next step up, but they're different for other players. Midfielders, not too many complaints, to be honest. I think that the Kanya and Delendi are the current centre partnership. Jesse Creel is there. Again, he's the box management trust him, and I think that if we're being brutally honest and fair, Null could have been an option. He has been part of the box squad, and I think Cornel Hendricks, if you want to go that route, but there is that whole history of Cornel Hendricks in SA Rugby, so I think that's why that we just won't see him playing there. But after those two, I'm a Lions fan. I'll tell you right now, I want to see that Similani has not had the breakout season we'd hope. I don't think he's entirely at fault. I unfortunately think that the Lions setup and the way that we play just does not bring the best out of him, because he has had some games where he's been next level, and we often win those games. But he hasn't banged the door down. Same with Lionel Poo, same with, so I don't think there are hundreds and hundreds of options at outside centre. Inside centre is a whole different story. Andre Esterhazen, for example, you had to pick him. He had to be picked. People were saying that he was robbed of the Premiership Player of the Season. So, it's a non-starter for him. Other inside centres, Corner Hendricks, for example, plays anywhere. So he would have been a very good option. There's no inside centre at the Sharks who are pushing. Damien Willems is already there, and he's been the best inside centre for Stormers. Ryan Jansen van Rensburg, I'll be interested to start to see if he has something to say next year playing for the Sharks, for example. I think it's a very good move for him. I hate it as a Lions fan, but being under the microscope of the box management in the project team that's supposed to be like, building a side to take on Europe, that'll be his best opportunity of forcing his way into the squad. But I don't have too many issues. I think that there aren't enough outside centers who are really. Again, I think Ruanal would be solid enough in the box, but he's not banging the door down. Similani was not banging the door down. Nobody's banging the door down outside center. So that's why I can understand going with Jesse Creel, because he's tried and trusted, and they trust him. But Pinot Fazex, Moody got Springbok written all over him. Brilliant player, 100%. I didn't realize so many Springboks from Japan. Do they play their season or they move there permanently? Yeah, so some of them have got on sabbaticals, like Lakanya went sabbatical, but most of them are playing there permanently. All Black squad does not look threatening at all. No disrespect. I agree, actually. I must admit, for once, I looked at an All Black squad and sat there going. And admittedly, I'll be the first to admit I don't watch a lot of Super Rugby, so there are a lot of names there which I can't comment on because I haven't watched enough of them. But I certainly am not completely intimidated by it. I don't think they're going, shit, we're never going to be able to beat these guys. Because I look at that front row and think, it's a tight five, to be honest, because I think that Brody Retallick, interesting to see if he can turn things on. I thought it was very average last year. So I do look at that All Black squad and think, we can have a go at them. We've got 2 games in South Africa. Let's have it. Super Rugby season was full WWE. Esterhazen brings options. Reuniting Sharks in a combo with him in 13. Partnership with Creel. Maybe Dale at 13 would be an option. Yeah, so that's the thing. Dale can move to 13 if he needs to. Runs in Jensburg is another player walking on with a sick note. Well, I think that's where sometimes moving clubs helps get rid of that sort of tag, because you can then go on a decent run and stuff like that. Lionel Poo, Harold Forster. I think Harold Forster's a solid enough player. I don't think he's pretty more quality, and Lionel Poo can barely force his way into the box, into the Bulls setup, let alone then the Springboks. He has played for Springboks though, to be fair. And then we look at outside backs. Upland Fassi. Warwick Land had to be there for a start. Cheslin Colby, Billy LaRue, Maximum Pimpy. If you guys thought Billy LaRue was being dropped, you guys have not been paying attention. I would have picked him. I 100% would have picked Billy LaRue. I would 100% pick Warwick Land to start for the box. But I definitely would have had Billy LaRue in the squad. I think that he gets so much disrespect for what he's done. I think his performances, even when they're not great, are very much blown out of proportion in terms of how bad they are. I think that Pollard has had similarly bad games, and yet the reaction certainly goes towards Villiers far more. I think he's got an incredible role to play with guiding Fassi and Gelant and Willemse and Curtly Arendse as to what they're going to do for the rest of their careers. Mapimpi is. I'm glad he started to look good towards that end of the tournament, because I was getting a bit worried that he looked like he was slowing down a bit, but he looked quite solid. Spirit, of course, is currently injured, so he wasn't an option there. Other options, people talking about Leon Zas, but he'd be there ahead of Maxwell Mapimpi. Mapimpi is the only sort of out and out, left wing that we've chosen. So it would be Mapimpi or Zas, Mapimpi or Madash Tamwe. Although Madash Tamwe can play at 14. Assuming that, although I don't think he's actually still eligible yet. I still don't think he's got South African citizenship and stuff. So you're starting. I would be starting with Colby, Mapimpi, and Vili. I'm not Vili, Warwick Gelant, and I'll probably and see what happens. They will go with Vili, Mapimps, and Colby, I'm sure. But I would like to see Gelant start. But I think that Fassi, I can understand being in the squad. I would not start him at fullback. I think lots of people sit there going, how is he not playing fullback, whatever. For me, he's still being picked as a wing. And I think he is, because if you look at that squad, you've got Gelant, fullback. Colby, 14. Villiers, fullback. Damien Willemse, 12, more fullback than a wing. Curly Arendse, fullback, usually by trade. Can play everywhere else, because they are utility backs. Fassi, for me, is being picked as a wing more so than he's being picked as a fullback, because I don't think he suits the box setup as a fullback. He scored tries as a wing, which is fantastic for him. But I don't think he's got the. I don't think he's ready yet to play fullback at international level, and it's his defense. And it's two things. First of all, it's defense, which I think is very subpar, and he had a horrible defensive moment the other day. But I also think that again, look at how the box play, and we talk about the right players, not the best players. And 15 in the box is a playmaker. They are a decision maker. They are a link. They step in at first receiver often. Fassi doesn't play that role. He's a counter-attacking, incredibly quick, X factor, good with ball in hand type player, which is not what we have at Springbok level. I think it's also probably why we haven't seen Colby as much, although Colby is far more of a playmaker than Fassi is. And he has played at 10, for example. So if he could very much do that at the 15 role, I wouldn't have any issue with him playing there. I think it has to be Gelant, because just look and play. He fits the mold perfectly. And he's been part of the Springbok setup before, so he is a Springbok. And the utility backs, I think Curtly Arendse is a very interesting selection. I was quite surprised by it. That is the role that Frans Steyn would obviously occupy. Now, Frans Steyn is injured, so he's not available. So he's not been dropped. He's not available for the series. I'm surprised they're going Curtly Arendse, because he's also been called into the blitz box. A lot of people saying they would have liked to see Tyron Green, and I think it would have been a good opportunity to bring Tyron Green in, because again, is Curtly Arendse going to play? Probably not. So would Tyron Green have played? Probably more likely to have played. But I also think that if Tyron Green is part of the box setup, you are committed to playing for South Africa. You're not going to go the England route. So I think and some people saying, oh, well, if he wants to play for England, he's going to play for England. And I kind of agree with that. But why would you not want to have as many options as you can? So if and he wouldn't be unjustified in selecting him either. So I think that's an interesting selection. People are talking about Tristan Lates, for example. Even Raymond Roulet, for example. I mean, these are two players who just won the European Champions Cup, and yet are not on the block radar. Maybe Raymond Roulet would have been a good option, because he can cover outside centre and wing. So there's a couple of players who sort of have fallen down the wayside. And I do think it is more difficult to make the box squad playing overseas than it is in England. They still do select overseas, but we don't see too many new faces from overseas coming in, do we? Not lately, anyway. But Damien Willemse, a lot of people don't like him. A lot of people didn't rate him. And I was the first to say last year, listen, he's not playing particularly well. He's not in good form. But if you don't see the talent that Damien Willemse has, I can't help you. Because he's one of the most talented rugby players I've ever seen. He's just He's just not putting it all together. This last 4 months, we've seen the Damian Willemse we've been waiting to see. He looks like a different player. I mean, this weekend he was absolutely tremendous. Tremendous. I mean, he got man of the match. He deserved every minute. I mean, he was fantastic. He was winning balls to the breakdown. He was running well. He was defending well. As I said, he's so talented. I'm so chuffed to see him in that squad. 20, the number 23 is Daniel Phillips' jersey now. It really is. Um, and because he can start in everywhere. So yeah, that 23 jersey is him, and I'm very chuffed to see that he's playing his rugby. Yes, I did mean Dylan, not Tristan. Tristan's very lightweight. Interesting though. Now you see, and I don't want to call you out, but the comment here by Brian Pesplay saying Raymond Roulet that could can't tackle it, or I remember him as a cheater, and the main reason the defense of Torrens Super Rugby days. Do not make the mistake of judging him on 5 years ago, because Raymond Roulet has gone to La Rochelle and has been one of their primary players in their sort of rugby revolution. And I can promise you right now, the Raymond Roulet you watched at the Cheetahs is not the Raymond Roulet that's playing for La Rochelle. He is next level at the moment, and his defense is no issue with defense whatsoever. He came into the box. His defense was really poor. He was absolutely slammed. He was thrown around. He was thrown out. He's gone full circle, and players should be allowed to do that. He would not do the Bok jersey any disrespect if he were to play in it. He would earn it, and he would play very well. If you've watched, and again, I'm not saying I watch La Rochelle every weekend, but I do watch them occasionally, and he is proper at the moment. Campos says on paper this team is better than the 2019 World Cup team. That's a huge call. Huge call. It's a bigger squad, I suppose. But yeah, look, I don't see why not. I mean, most of the big players are there. Chase says, I agree players need to play URC to get safe for the Springboks. Once they have secured their place, they can play overseas. Estes is Cornbring or Cooper come back. 2 tries at the bench. Galant with 3 tries, assists, and a try for his own. Ruler and Latesman class, especially this season. I agree. There's a comment I wanted to address. Where was it? I've lost it now. The Dwayne Vermeulen issue. Somebody having a go saying, surely you knew this from your due diligence that he was excluded for his operation. Fun fact, the fact that he was undergoing an operation was not made public until well after the block announcement was made. So if you're going to be that person that is going to address things that were said days before new information was made out and have a go at the person, feel free. Nobody knew why Dwayne Vermeulen had been dropped. Every single major publication used the word dropped until it was then. I mean, why wouldn't you? The guy's just played a full 80 minutes, was one of the best players in the park, doesn't make a box squad. You didn't exactly watch him on Saturday going, yeah, no, look, you can see that guy needs a knee surgery. You can see there's something that not happened, eh? You can see that Dwayne wasn't playing up to his best on Saturday, and therefore an injury must have been the reason. It was very much inside knowledge that he was going to be rested to now have this knee surgery, which has now come to light, which actually hasn't yet to be confirmed by the box setup, which will be confirmed on Wednesday. But yeah, don't sit there saying do your due diligence when you're now talking about information which has come to light since statements have been made. I mean, come on. Let's be fair here. So that is the situation, So even if you look at the wording at the moment, is believed to be undergoing a knee complaint. So it sounds like there has been an issue that Dwayne Vermeulen has been having, and they've decided, well, let's not select him. Two things. I think if he has got a knee selection, first of all, let's let him go get it sorted and try have the entire year next year to make sure he's fine. Similarly, if he's not going to be fine, if this knee thing is going to regress, then we need to have different options. So they've done the right thing. 100% they've done the right thing by not including him, means we can look at other options. So we're prepared for either way. But yeah, it was not publicly acknowledged, nor was anything ever stated in press release or anything like that he was having any injury. It's only like inside source that come out and said so. But yeah, so just looking at a couple of the last comments here before we wrap up. Sharky Number is trying to lose the Rugby World Cup next year. I mean, I don't think he is. I'd be very surprised if that's his plan. Lee 100 says, join late. I just want to take a brag and say my 31-30 prediction for the Bulls win was pretty accurate. Love this little rugby community you're building here. Come up to the Stormers for the final win. Dwayne will be in the next World Cup if fit, 100%. We don't have depth at fly half. Yeah, we talked about that a bit earlier. Am I the only one who's really excited about the squad, though? I am. I'm very am. You know, we can pick and as I said, I've got certain players who I'm sitting there going, I would prefer to see somebody else, and we're all going to have that. That's the whole point, isn't it? Is that we've all gonna have players that we like in the squad. We all got players that we don't want there to be. But what I would say is that I think it's got so much talent in it that we're going to sit here and we're going to debate selections because we're not going to be happy, even though we could be selecting the best 15 players in you know, if you picked a loose trio of Sia Khaleesi, Peter Steph Toy, Quaka Smith, for example, and on the bench you've got Ulrich Lowe and Franco Marcel as your sort of utility forwards, you're going to have people sitting there saying, how can Marcel Coetzee not be involved there? If you go Marcel Coetzee on the bench, some people are going to sit there saying, well, how can you not have Ulrich Lowe there? Some people will sit there saying Jasper Wiese needs to be there. I think that Quaka Smith has to be in the 23 because I think that he was incredible last year. I think that last year we finally saw why the Boks and the Lions fans have been seeing it for a while. But Quaka Smith is obviously something a bit different. Yes, he's not the big bulking Marcel Coetzee, Ulrich Lowe, Evan Ruiz, Jasper Wiese, absolute unit of players, but that little bit of something different is incredibly valuable, and we started to see that last year. So we're not going to be happy with the final 23, but I do think that this is one of the best Boks squads I've ever seen. And I think that there is a perfect combination of experience and players who have been there, done that. They might not be playing particularly well. Sia Khaleesi has not had a phenomenal season, but we said the same thing last year ahead of the British and Irish Lions. People were literally saying that he should not be starting against the British and Irish Lions. In December, he was voted the South Africa Springbok Player of the Year. So he's paid his time. So yes, he might not be playing brilliant rugby for the Sharks, but you're not going to drop your captain and your best player last year. You know? Same goes for a lot of the Sharks players who I think are not playing their best rugby, but let them, you know, if they have bad performances in a Springbok jersey, then you get dropped for bad performances in a Springbok jersey. But until you do, and you've done nothing wrong in the past, you can't drop guys. Louis saying that Smith should start. Contender's got a different sports rugby squad. I think this week we're supposed to do a full front row team. But Buthelezi deserves a call up, but there's so many classes. Exactly, and I think that's the thing, you know, that there are players who deserve to be there, but there's just no space for them, and that will always be the case. You know, sometimes there are years where there are players there, and you sit there thinking, are you really about quality? But there's nobody else. Sometimes, and especially when it comes to loose forwards, often are the case where there are just so many good players, there's just no space for extra people. But anyway, that brings us to the end of today's show. We will probably have another show tomorrow, and I've got some very exciting personal news to share with you guys very soon, which I think is going to be very exciting for the channel. I did launch a subreddit. I haven't posted anything on it, but let me actually just put the link out to join, and we're going to start trying to roll that out over this week. I think it will be quite a nice week to start trying to do, and maybe start putting things in place ahead of the Bok series. So there's the link to our subreddit if you want to go and join and stuff like that. And then we are going to start posting and start getting a bit of try and translate this community a little bit to that in various different places and stuff like that. So yeah, I must admit that I've done nothing on it, so we will start looking at that. So if you guys want to start posting and stuff like that, let's just keep it appropriate for now. Whilst you sit there putting in all the safety features and stuff like that to make sure that it's a very strong and yeah, good community. But yeah, we'll chat to you guys tomorrow probably. Please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel. We are painstakingly close to 11,000 subscribers. I think we need 13 people to hit that. No, we don't. We need 8 people. In fact, I might just sit here I'm gonna sit here. There must be 8 of you that are not subscribed, and I'm not leaving until we're on 11,000. So 8 people. Surely there are 8 people that have not subscribed. Grant Spot says I was the first person to celebrate. Well, there we go. Grant's pioneering. We are now at 7 people needed to get to 11,000. But 1996, 4 people. Do I really have to sit here waiting for 4 people? Surely 4 people can just there we go. Top rated players are subscribed. That was given. That was 10,996. Last exam tomorrow. There we go. F and TSG is jumping on us properly after this because there's no exams. 97. Who was 97? Who's gonna be 98? Who's gonna be 99? Who's gonna be 11,000? Come on, 3 people. 98, 99. Who's gonna be that person? Guys, 10,999. Like, I'm going to put it on the screen for you guys so that you guys can see it. Oh, my goodness. Now it's gone back. Now people are unsubscribing. Yeah, this might not work. Because, yeah, also, to be fair, it does sometimes take a while to see. But anyway, I'm going to leave you guys on. Hey, and we're there. We're 11,000. Thank the blooming Pope. Because we've been sitting in the 10,000s for, like, months and months and months. So we're now at 11,000 people. I love you guys. This year we're pushing for 20. We want to go 20,000. We want to go big. I want to try and establish something again. There's always that person. There's always that person, isn't there? People are probably going to unsubscribe now just to ruin my day and take it back to 10,999. I want to establish the biggest rugby community on YouTube. That's my goal. My goal is to try and create something very special here. You guys are part of that process. So please continue jumping on here. Please share it with your friends. I wanted to make sure that this weekend's watch-alongs and the Springbok watch-alongs are really special. There are other people, and I'm not saying don't be involved in that, but our vision is to try and create the biggest rugby community and the biggest sport community. You know, we're now got a rugby community. The next thing we want is a football community. We want just a sports community, and we have stumbled on something very special here, and you guys are a big part of that. So keep well. We'll see you guys next time, and yeah, as always, keep safe.